Hello, welcome to you all. Today we will try to explain a transformer, but here the basic motto of explaining transformer is something different. We assume that the basic working principle and construction and design of transformer is known to us. So here we will try to understand how transformer with no load, with loaded conditions, can be explained by its equivalent electrical circuit and including its phasor diagram. So here our target is to understand the working of transformer in a way so that we can explain it with the help of phasor diagram. And whole this topic will be important when we will discuss current transformer and potential transformer. So the basic need of this video is to explain the basic fundamental knowledge of transformer that will be beneficial for explaining current transformer and potential transformer for the measurement of high amount of current and voltages. So let's get into the topic directly. So already we know that a transformer basically works on the principle of mutual inductance, because everyone knows that in case of transformer there should be two windings. One is called primary winding, another one is called secondary winding, and both the winding is owned over a core that is a magnetic material, and mainly that is made up of soft iron, and this kind of construction is known to us. We are not going to explain details on that. So as it works on mutual inductance, so whenever current flows, the alternating current flows through the primary winding, it creates magnetic flux lines. And the first important thing that we need to remember here is that the nature of the current that flows through primary winding and the nature of magnetic flux produced by this current is always same or similar in nature. So that means the nature of current flowing through primary winding and the flux created due to its flow both have same type of nature. So assume that the primary winding current is sinusoidal in nature, so the flux that it will create should have a sinusoidal nature in it. So that is why I have written here that phi is the flux. Assume that flux it creates is phi. So its equation is phi m sine omega t. So its waveform will be something like that one. So this is a complete period of a single cycle. So here x-axis it is omega t, this is phi, and the maximum amplitude of this flux is phi m. So Faraday's law is known to everyone. So by utilizing Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, we know that due to the flow of current, certain amount of EMF will be induced in the primary winding. So the induced EMF, that is small e, is equal to n into d phi by dt. So this equation is known to everyone. I am explaining it once again, or I am repeating it once again. E is equal to n d phi dt is the induced EMF due to the flow of flux, and flux is generated due to the flow of current. So E is equal to n d phi by dt. What is n? N is the number of turns. So whenever current is flowing through a coil, the coil should have certain number of turns. So the induced voltage has a direct relationship with the number of turns of the coil. Now we know that in case of Faraday's law, the equation gives us only magnitude. What kind of magnitude? It tells us what amount of EMF will be induced when there is a rate of change of flux in the coil. d phi by dt basically explains the rate of change of flux with respect to time, d phi by dt. Now Lentz's laws gives us the direction, and it says E is equal to minus n d phi by dt. That is the direction. So actually we know whenever current flows through a coil, assume this one is a coil, current is flowing through it. Due to the flow of current, it will create this type of magnetic flux lines. And if this current is alternating in nature, that means if it is changing with respect to time, then the flux produced by this current will be also changing with respect to time. Now Faraday says whenever we place a conductor in an environment where flux lines is gradually changing, then certain amount of EMF is induced within the coil. So that means whatever flux is present here, that will try to produce a EMF within this coil. And Lentz's law says the direction of this induced EMF is the opposite of the potential due to which it has been generated. So that is why these two equations basically gives us the total information about electromagnetic induction. So now EMF induced at the primary side, that will be E1 is equal to minus of N1 d phi by dt. The primary induced voltage is E1, N1 is the primary winding number, then it is d phi by dt. Now what is phi? We have written here phi is equal to phi m sin omega t. So now we have put phi is equal to phi m sin omega t. So if we differentiate phi m sin omega t, phi m is a constant term, so it will come here, and the derivative of sin is definitely cos omega t multiplied by omega. So the primary induced voltage is equal to N1 phi m omega in bracket minus cos of omega t, because minus is there. Now with the knowledge of basic mathematics, we know that minus cos theta is equal to sine in bracket theta minus 90 degree. So we can rewrite E1 in this way. E1 is equal to phi m, omega is equal to 2 pi f. Omega is the angular frequency, so that is equal to 2 pi f. So phi m is equal to phi m into 2 pi f into number of turns of the primary winding into sine omega t minus 90 degree. Now if we write down minus 90 degree is equal to psi, if we represent in this way, then the equation becomes E1 is equal to EM1. What is EM1? I am coming here. What is written here? EM1 is equal to 2 pi f into phi m into N1. So EM1 is equal to 2 pi f into phi m into N1. So we put that value here, then it becomes sin omega t plus phi. So this is the abbreviated equation. We have represented in this way. 2 pi f N1 is equal to phi m 2 pi f N1. Everything is equivalent to E of M1. Now this is the induced EMF in the primary winding. If we want to find the RMS value of that EMF, then it will be EM1, this one, divided by root 2. Now EM1 is equal to, we already know, 2 pi f phi m N1 divided by root 2. So 2 pi divided by root 2 gives us 4.44. Phi m is here, f is here, and N1. So it is written here 2 pi by root 2 is equal to 4.44. So this is the RMS value of the EMF that we can get in the primary winding side. So similarly, in case of transformer, we have secondary winding also, and that will produce an EMF. So the value of secondary EMF will be also E2 is equal to 4.44 phi m f into N2. N2 is the number of turns in the secondary winding. Now if we look into this equation, then we can find that E1 is equal to the maximum magnitude or amplitude multiplied by sine omega t minus 90 degree. So there is a phase difference of 90 degree. So that means there is a phase difference between flux and the induced voltages. So here we have written the finding. E1, E2 is the induced voltage due to the flow of flux phi, and what is the relation that we have find right now is that it lags 90 degree or by an angle pi by 2 with respect to phi. So if I want to draw the phasor diagram, if this line represent phi, then E1 as well as E2 both should come down in this direction because E1, E2 both are the induced voltages due to the presence of phi, and E1, E2 lags phi by an angle pi by 2 or 90 degree. Now, a practical transformer with no load condition. What happens? So this is the simplest diagram of the transformer. This is the primary winding. Here you can find there is a secondary winding. This is the core we are talking about. Now, in the primary winding, we have supplied a potential of V1, alternating potential, or the AC in nature, due to which there is a closed path and I1 is the current flowing through it. Assume that I1 is the current flowing through it. So whenever current is flowing through this coil, it will create some magnetic flux lines. Now, some of the magnetic flux line should flow through this magnetic material, because we know the reluctance of this path is minimum with respect to the reluctance of the free space. That means we know through magnetic material flux lines flow easily than it flows through the vacuum or through air. So whatever flux it will be created by the primary winding, most of them, not everyone, most of them will try to flow through this particular core, and rest of the flux is called leakage flux. So that does not help us in transformer action. They basically produce certain amount of losses. So now, in case of secondary winding, we can found that we have drawn the diagram in case of no load. So secondary terminal is open. Now secondary winding is experiencing a certain amount of flux available here, and these flux are alternating in nature because they have generated due to the current which is alternating in nature. So as per the Faraday's law and Lentz's law, the secondary coil is also experience a induced voltage due to the presence of this one, even if we have not connected any load in the secondary winding circuit. So what happens? The secondary induced voltage, we assume that one as E2. So V1 is the given excitation to the primary one. E1 is the induced voltage across primary winding. Primary winding has a number of turns, that is N1. Secondary winding has a number of turns, that is N2. Secondary induced voltage is E2. And the secondary open terminal voltage is V2. And as this is a open terminal, so no current flows through it. So the secondary winding current I2 is 0. So it is written here, E1 is the induced voltage, induced EMF of the primary. So as I2 is equal to 0, so in case of secondary we can say E2 is equal to V2. E2 is the induced voltage, V2 is the terminal voltage. Now, whenever no load is connected, till we know that certain amount of current should flow through the transformer, and that amount is denoted by I0, and we called this one as a no load primary current. So what is the function of this current? We know that this current has two components. One is called magnetizing component, another one is called loss component. So magnetizing component is responsible for producing this kind of magnetic fluxes, and the loss component is present due to eddy current, due to hysteresis, and the core loss. Core loss is basically the heating effect, I square R losses. So it has the primary no load current has two components. One is called magnetizing current or magnetizing component, that is IM, and IC is the loss current. So our basic target of this discussion was to explain this one, the equivalent circuit of the transformer with no load condition. So this is the primary winding, this is secondary winding. They have been electrically isolated but magnetically coupled. So V1 is the given excitation to the primary winding. RP is the primary winding resistance. XP is the primary winding reactance. RC is the loss component. XM is the magnetizing component, reactance. So through RC, the amount of current that is flowing IC is basically loss current, that is IC, because in case of loss we know the maximum loss comes due to I square R. It is written here, that is core loss component. And whenever IM current is flowing through XM, that is the magnetizing reactance, so the current becomes IM, and their summation IM and IC gives the summation of I0, that is the no load primary current. The turn of primary one is N1. The number of turn here you can find in the diagram, it is higher. We have assumed that N2 is greater than N1. With this condition I have drawn this diagram. So due to magnetic inductance or mutual inductance, certain amount of voltage will be induced here, that is E2, secondary winding resistance, secondary winding reactance, and the open terminal voltage is V2. So it is written here, V1 is the primary voltage, RP is the primary winding resistance, XP is the primary leakage resistance, I0 no load primary current, IC core loss component of I0, IM magnetizing component of I0, RE core loss resistance, XM magnetizing resistance reactance, E1 primary induced EMF, N1 and N2 winding turns of primary and secondary, RS is the secondary winding resistance, E2 secondary induced EMF, XS, this one XS is the secondary winding reactance, and V2 is the terminal voltage. So with this information, if we want to draw the phasor diagram of this transformer in no load condition, then how we can draw it? So I will explain here. So hopefully you can find it. So let's start with phi, because everything happens due to the presence of phi. And from the discussion we know that primary induced voltage E1 lags by an angle 90 degree with respect to phi, and similarly E2 also lags phi by an angle 90 degree. We assume this angle is 90 degree, right? Now even if it is no load condition, we know there is a current flows through the primary winding, that is called I0, no load current I0. I0 has two components. So I0 is the summation of IM magnetizing component plus loss component. So due to magnetizing component, this flux has been generated. So magnetizing component should be here, IEM, or sometime it is represented as I mu, whatever can be the notation. So this is the amount of current due to which flux has been generated. And at the beginning of this video I have said that the nature of the current which creates this flux has the similar kind of properties. So if this is flux, if this vector represents flux, so this vector can represent that amount of current which produce it. Another one is the loss component, and we know the direction of loss component is this one. So we can assume in this way, if this is the direction of current that flows through the inductor, and due to which if it creates a voltage drop, then the vector of that voltage drop should be in this direction. So that means this is, we should write in this way, voltage developed across inductor L, not load, inductive load. So because in case of inductor, current lags by an angle 90 degree with respect to the voltage. So why I am saying this kind of thing? So this is IC, what it represents, the loss component. So their summation should give us I0. This is I0. This is the no load primary winding current. Now, in this diagram, if we find this is the no load current flowing through these two branches. Now, everything happens due to V1. So V1 is equal to voltage drop across RP, voltage drop across XP, and induced voltage of E1. And we need to remember the direction of E1 is opposite of V1. So that means V1 is equal to voltage drop across RP plus voltage drop across XP minus voltage drop across this one, that is E1. So if this vector represents E1, then minus E1 should be in this direction. So this can be minus E1. So with minus E1, we need to add voltage drop across XP, voltage drop across RP. So all this thing happen when I0 current is flowing through it. So in case of RP, RP is the resistive part. So if this is the direction of I0, then I0 into RP should be in the same direction. That is a parallel line. So it can be I0 into RP. By following this logic that I have written here, I0 current is flowing through XP. XP is the inductive reactance. So that will create a voltage drop that is equal to I0 into XP. So what should be its direction? It should lead this vector by an angle 90 degree. So let me draw in this way. So assume this is 90 degree. So this one will become I0 XP. So if I add this one, maybe this line, so this line, what it represents? It represents V1, the given excitation to the primary winding, and the phase difference between these two is called phi 0. That is basically no load phase angle. So the angle between the voltage given to the primary and due to which the current flowing through the primary is called no load phase angle. So that is the simplest way to draw the phasor diagram of transformer in no load condition. Now assume that on load. So right now we have connected a load in the secondary winding, and the nature of the load is lagging power factor. That means it's inductive one. So the nature of this load is inductive one. So what happens right now? So as the load is present, so right now this path becomes a complete circuit, closed path. So certain amount of current should start flowing through it. That is called I2. I2 is the secondary winding current. Now, to maintain this flow of current, what is required? Required is the E2 should be sufficient enough to deliver I2, because the current flows in this circuit is due to E2. What is E2? E2 is the induced secondary voltage and that came into picture due to the presence of flux phi. So if I want to maintain this voltage, then what is required? Required is that you need to provide little bit more amount of flux so that it becomes constant. Now who provides flux? Flux is provided due to the flow of current in the primary winding. So to maintain or so to provide extra amount of flux within the transformer, the primary winding right now draws a little bit more extra amount of current from the source, that is V1, that we have connected in the primary winding side. So I am repeating it once again. When no load was there, the amount of current flowing through the primary winding was only I0. Now we have connected a load. The nature of this load is inductive one. So due to this load, this path becomes a closed one. So I2 is the current starts flowing through it. Now this I2 current is flowing through it due to the presence of this E2, that is the potential developed across E2. That potential developed across E2 due to the presence of flux. That flux was generated due to the flow of current within the primary winding. So now, this amount of extra current requires extra amount of potential here. That extra amount of potential requires extra amount of flux to be present within the system. That means this primary winding draws something more current right now from the source. So that is why the primary current is right now represented by another value, that is I2 prime. So I2 prime is flowing through the circuit due to compensate the need of I2. So now we have written it here also. Magnitude of I2 prime depends upon the turn number, and I2 is the secondary current and I2 prime is the primary current required to nullify I2. So that is the extra amount of current that needs to flow through primary winding so that it can nullify or it can satisfy the need of I2. So now in this case, if we want to draw the phasor diagram, then how to draw it? So the circuit is here and we will try to draw it here. So what we have assumed that here we will start with a different approach. The load is inductive one and V2 is the voltage developed across this inductive load. So assume this vector represents V2. So this is the voltage across inductive load. And we know in case of inductive load, the current lags by this voltage by an angle phi. In case of ideal condition, it is a 90-degree one. So at least we know the current that is flowing through the circuit, that is I2, should lag V2 by an angle phi. So the direction of I2 should be like this one. It should lag. So I2 is lagging with respect to V2. Now, from the diagram, what is V2? That is V2 plus voltage drop across XS plus RS gives us E2. So if this is the direction of I2, then the I2 current flowing through RS should give us a voltage drop of I2 into RS. So what should be its direction? Parallel to I2. So this direction gives us I2 into RS. Now I2 current is flowing through XS, that is the inductive reactance. So it should lead by 90-degree angle. So assume this one. So this one is I2 into XS. So from the circuit, the closed path of secondary winding, we know summation of voltage drop across RS, voltage drop across XS plus V2 is equal to E2, because everything happens due to E2. So the summation of these three vector should give me E2. Now we know if this is the direction of E2, it should be the direction of E1 also. What is E1? The induced voltage across primary winding. And we know, and if this is E1 and E2, and they present in the system due to the presence of flux phi. And what is the relation that I have explained in the previous diagram, that E1, E2 lags phi by an angle 90 degree. So what should be the direction of phi? That is this one. So assume this is 90 degree. So this one will be phi. So if this is phi, then magnetizing component should be here, loss component should be here, their summation should give us I0, right? Now so this is I0. Now if this is I2, we know that I2 prime is present in the system just to nullify I2. So if we draw a line here, then it will be called as I2 prime, because that is the extra amount of current that needs to flow through the primary winding to compensate I2. And the summation of I2 and I0 should give us total primary winding current. So how to draw their summation? Draw the parallel line of this one from this point. So maybe this one, and the parallel line of this one from this point, that is maybe this one. So it becomes, this is as I1. So probably you can find it here. I have drawn it. This is I0. This one is I2. So I2 prime is here, just opposite line. This dotted line is I2. Summation of I2 prime and I0 gives us primary current I1. So finally we have got the primary winding current I1. Now in case of primary side, we found that this is the V1 given excitation due to which I1 current is flowing. I1 current is flowing through RP, that will create a voltage drop I1 into RP. I1 current is flowing through XP, that will create an inductive voltage drop, that is I1 into XP, right? And they will create a voltage drop of E1. And the nature of V1 and E1 is that it is in opposite direction. So V1 basically creates minus of V1. So the summation of voltage drop across this one plus of minus E1 is equal to V1. So if this is plus E1, then the opposite line, that is this one, gives us minus E1. With minus E1, I need to add I1 into RP. This is the direction of I1. The parallel line I1 R1 is here. That is I1 R1. Voltage drop across R1 or RP. This should be RP actually. It is written here. This is RP. Now I1 current is flowing through XP. So that is the inductive voltage that should lead by an angle 90 degree. So this is I1 into XP. So their summation should give us V1. That is the primary excitation given to the system. So this is the phasor diagram we can find. Now certain angles we have represented here. So in case of inductive load, I2 current lags induced secondary winding voltage V2 by an angle phi 2. V1 makes an angle of phi 0 with respect to I0 no load current, that is called no load phase angle, that we have represented in the previous topic. And the phase difference between V1 and I1, the final primary current or the primary current and the primary excitation voltage is phi 1. So these are certain amount of angles that is required for different type of mathematical calculations. So that is the phasor diagram that we can found in case of lagging power factor. So if the load is leading power factor, means capacitive in nature, then what should be the diagram? So once again, so assume that here the load is capacitive in nature. Then what will happen? We should start similarly. Assume this is V2. V2 is the voltage applied or available across the load, which is now capacitive in nature. So now we know that in case of capacitive load, the current flowing through it should lead by an angle phi. So I2, what should be the direction of I2? I2 should be anywhere in this direction, because it's a capacitive current. It should lead with respect to the capacitive voltage V2. Now from the diagram we know the voltage drop across V2 plus voltage drop across XS plus voltage drop across RS gives us the value of V2. So try to draw it. So this is V2 I have drawn. Then I2 RS should be in the direction I2 RS. Now I2 current is flowing through XS. So that will create a voltage drop. And in case of inductor, it leads by an angle 90 degree. So this one will be I2 into XS. So their summation should give us E2. Now if this is E2, then U1 should be here. And if this vector represent E1 and E2, then what should be the direction of phi? Phi should be here. Phi should be here. Now magnetizing component Im should be here. Loss component IC should be in this direction. Their summation should give us no load primary current I0. Now I2 is the secondary current. So I2 prime is the amount of current that is required to flow through the system to compensate I2. So what should be its direction? So this can be I2 prime, that is the extra amount of current flowing through the primary one to compensate I2. So the summation of I2 prime and I0 should give us primary winding current. So let me draw that one. So draw a parallel line of this one. Draw a parallel line of this one. So this can be I1, the primary winding current. Now if this is E1, then the opposite line is basically minus of E1. Why minus of E1 is important? Because in case of primary winding, voltage drop V1 is equal to voltage drop across RP plus voltage drop across XP plus of minus E1, because the nature of E1 and V1 is opposite in direction due to Lentz's law. We know that one. So with minus E1, I need to add I1 into RP. This is the I1. So the direction will be like this one. So I1 into RP is this one. Now I1 current is flowing through XP. So what is XP? XP is inductive nature. That will create an inductive voltage. So it should lead by an angle 90 degree. So it will be something like this one. This is 90 degree. I assume this one is 90 degree. So this is I1 into XP. So the summation of minus E1, I1 RP, I1 XP should give us V1. So if I add them, that will give us V1. So this is the vector. So in accordance with the previous diagram, so the phase difference between secondary load voltage or the terminal voltage and the secondary current is given as phi 2. The phase difference between I0 and V1, this angle is phi 0, and the phase difference between V1 and I1 is phi 1. So this is the way to draw the phasor diagram in case of transformer with no load condition, and if the load is inductive in nature, then it is like this one. If the load is capacitive in nature, then the phasor diagram looks like this one. That's all for today. Thank you.